The lawyer's office smells like old books and regret, the kind of place where time slows down, but your heart doesn't. My fingers grip the edge of the table so hard they ache, knuckles white against the dark wood. The air feels heavy, pressing on my chest, as if the room itself knows what's coming before I do. "Claire Hayes?" the lawyer says, his voice calm, detached, like he does this every day, which of course he does. But not to me. Not today. He slides a single sheet of paper across the desk, and my hands shake so badly I can barely hold it steady. The words blur together, but one thing cuts through loud and clear. To Margaret. Not me. Nothing for me. My stomach drops like I've been shoved off a cliff. This isn't just about money. It's about being erased. My dad, my own father, left me out of his will. After everything. After paying his medical bills when he couldn't. After sitting by his side in that sterile hospital room, holding his hand while machines beeped and nurses whispered. After begging him to stop pushing me away. And now? Now it's like none of that mattered. Like I didn't matter. I swallow hard, trying to breathe past the lump in my throat. But it's no use. Tears burn behind my eyes, shame and anger twisting into something sharp and ugly inside me. How could he do this? Why would he do this? I don't even notice the silence stretching until the lawyer clears his throat gently, pulling me back to reality. "Ms. Hayes," he begins, but I cut him off with a wave of my hand. There's nothing left to say here. If you want to hear how I uncover secrets that change everything and learn why forgiveness might be the hardest choice, we're just getting started. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a moment of this raw, unforgettable journey. Trust me, you'll want to see how far I'm willing to go to reclaim what's mine. Let me tell you about the people tangled up in this mess, because they're not just names on a page. They're pieces of me, whether I like it or not. First, there's my dad, William Hayes. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but he was mine. A quiet man, always more comfortable with tools in his hands than words on his lips. He worked as a carpenter most of his life, building things other people would use but never fixing what really mattered. Us. His silences were heavy, loaded with unspoken apologies and regrets. Maybe that's why I spent so much time trying to fill them. With care, with sacrifice, with love he couldn't seem to give back. When cancer took hold of him, I stepped up. Not because I wanted gratitude, but because someone had to. Because deep down, I thought if I did enough, maybe he'd finally see me, really see me. Instead, here we are. Then there's Aunt Margaret. She's something else entirely. If Dad was quiet, Margaret is loud. Not with her voice, but with her presence. She walks into a room like she owns it, stiff-backed and sharp-eyed, judging everyone before she even says hello. She's always been the responsible one, the one who stayed close to home while I left Maple Ridge for college, chasing dreams bigger than this small town. But responsibility doesn't make you kind, and Margaret's version comes with a side of judgment. She looks at me now like I'm some stranger who wandered into her carefully ordered world, daring to question her authority. And yet, I can't help wondering, does she feel guilty? Does she know how wrong this all feels? And then there's Mark. Oh, Mark. He's an old friend from high school, the kind of guy who still remembers your favorite coffee order after 10, years apart. Easygoing, loyal, and endlessly patient, he's been my anchor through this chaos. When I came back to Maple Ridge, he didn't ask questions. He just showed up, ready to help. Whether it's digging through Dad's cluttered garage or sitting with me late at night when the weight of everything threatens to crush me, Mark is there. But even he doesn't fully understand what this fight means to me. It's not about the money, it's about being seen. about proving I mattered to the people who were supposed to love me most. Finally, there's me, Claire Hayes, 32 years old, stubborn as hell, and carrying more than my fair share of baggage. I've always been the fixer, the one who steps in when things fall apart. That's what I did for Dad, and look where it got me. Now I'm stuck between anger and grief, fighting for something I'm not even sure I want anymore. Money won't bring him back, but justice might help me sleep at night. Or at least that's what I tell myself. These aren't just characters in a story. They're real people with flaws and fears, tied together by loss and betrayal. If you stick around, you'll see how their choices shape not only my journey, but also the truths we uncover along the way. This isn't just my battle. It's theirs too. And trust me, none of us will come out unchanged. Let me take you to Maple Ridge, because this place isn't just a setting. It's part of the story, seeping into every crack of my heart like water through worn wood. The town feels smaller now than it did when I was growing up, its edges blurred by time and neglect. The streets are lined with towering oak trees, whose branches twist toward the sky like desperate hands. Their leaves rustle softly in the breeze, but even that sound carries a kind of sadness, as if the wind itself is mourning something lost. Dad's house sits at the end of a quiet road, creaking under the weight of years it refuses to let go of. The paint on the siding is peeling, faded yellow giving way to patches of raw wood. It smells like him inside, wood polish mixed with the faint metallic tang of old tools left too long in the garage. Every step on the floorboards echoes, groaning beneath my feet like they're trying to speak. In the kitchen, the air is heavy, with memories, burnt toast mornings, hurried dinners, silence stretching between us like an invisible wall neither of us knew how to tear down. The garage is where Dad spent most of his time, surrounded by half-finished projects and piles of lumber. The scent of sawdust still lingers, sharp and grounding, mixing with the damp earthiness of rain-soaked concrete. There's a workbench, cluttered with nails, screws, and jars of mismatched bolts, all coated in a fine layer of dust. His toolbox sits in the corner, dented and scratched, like it's been dragged through every battle he ever fought. When I open it, the hinges squeak in protest, releasing a wave of familiarity so strong it nearly knocks me over. This was his sanctuary, his fortress. Now it feels like a tomb. Outside, crickets chirp endlessly, their rhythmic song cutting through the sticky humidity of late summer. Fireflies blink lazily in the twilight, tiny pinpricks of light dancing against the darkening sky. The porch swing sways gently, pushed by phantom winds or maybe just the ghosts of conversations we never had. Sitting here, staring out at the overgrown yard, I can almost hear Dad's voice calling me inside for dinner. Almost. This place holds everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's not just a house, it's a museum of moments I can't escape. Each creak, each scent, pulls me deeper into the past, forcing me to confront what I've tried so hard to forget. If you stay with me, you'll feel it too. The weight of these walls, the ache of this soil beneath your feet. Because this isn't just my home anymore. It's where the truth hides, waiting to be uncovered. And trust me, once you hear it, you won't want to leave. Here's the thing about being erased. It doesn't just hurt. It confuses you, makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself and the people who are supposed to love you most. What do you do when the person who should have known you better than anyone leaves you out of their final chapter? When they take all your sacrifices, the late-night phone calls, the hospital visits, the bills you paid even when you could barely afford rent, and act like none of it mattered? That's where I am right now, stuck in this whirlpool of anger and grief, spinning so fast I can't tell which way is up anymore. Dad didn't just leave me out of his will. He left me out of his life, at least in the ways that counted. Sure, I was there physically, showing up when no one else would, but emotionally, He kept me at arm's length, always choosing silence over connection, pride over vulnerability. And now, here I am, staring at this piece of paper with my name nowhere on it, wondering how much of this is about him and how much is about me. Did he think I didn't deserve anything? Or did he think I didn't need it? Either way, it stings. The money itself isn't the point. Not really. It's the message behind it. If Dad had written me off completely, why bother leaving anything to Aunt Margaret? She wasn't the one holding his hand during chemo. She wasn't the one making sure he ate something other than saltines and ginger ale when nausea hit. No, she was off living her perfect little life while I stayed here, picking up the pieces. So what does that say about me? About us? Was I invisible to him all along? Or did he see me and decide I wasn't worth it? And then there's Margaret, sitting smugly in her perfectly pressed blouses and judgmental stares, acting like she has some moral high ground because she stayed close to Dad. Close? Please. She visited twice a year, tops, bringing casseroles and condescension in equal measure. Yet somehow she gets everything. Everything. How is that fair? How is that right? But here's the kicker. I don't know what to do next. Do I walk away, let her win, and pretend none of this bothers me? Or do I fight back, dig into the mess of our family's secrets, and risk tearing apart whatever shreds of dignity we have left? Fighting feels like the obvious choice. It's what Dad would expect from me, isn't it? Stubborn Claire, always pushing for more, never settling. But what if I lose? What if I pour every ounce of energy into this battle and still end up empty-handed? Wouldn't that make me feel worse than walking away ever could? You might be thinking, why not just let it go? Move on? Trust me, I've thought about it. Sitting on that creaky porch swing, watching fireflies blink against the dark sky, I've imagined packing up my car and driving far away from Maple Ridge, leaving all this pain behind. But then what? Where does that leave me? Still angry, still hurt, still wondering why I wasn't enough for my own father. Could you do that? Could you turn your back on something so personal, so raw, and live with yourself afterward? Because that's the real conflict here. It's not about the money or even about Margaret. It's about proving to myself that I mattered, to Dad, to this family, to anyone. Every time I open that toolbox or sift through old letters, I find another reminder of how hard I tried, how much I gave, and how little I got in return. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe I should let it go and focus on moving forward. But deep down, I know I can't. Not until I understand why he pushed me away. Not until I figure out whether forgiveness is even possible. So tell me, what would you do? Would you fight for recognition? For justice? For closure? Or would you walk away, hoping time heals the wounds you're too scared to face? Whatever your answer, stick around, because this story isn't over yet. We're just getting to the part where things fall apart and come together again, in ways none of us saw coming. The first real crisis hits me like a freight train, and it's not just because of what happens, it's how it happens. Margaret. Of course it's Margaret. She doesn't wait long after the reading of the will to make her move, showing up at Dad's house uninvited one afternoon, her heels clicking sharply against the warped floorboards as if she owns the place. The air feels heavier with her here, charged with tension that makes my skin prickle. "We need to talk," she says, her voice clipped, like she's addressing an employee instead of her own niece. I don't even get a chance to respond before she launches into this rehearsed speech about how Dad wanted things this way, how he trusted her more than anyone else, as if I'm supposed to believe that garbage without question. Margaret stands, in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, looking down her nose at me like I'm some stranger who wandered in off the street. Her tone is calm, too calm. but there's venom laced in every word. You weren't here for him, Claire, she says finally, her eyes boring into mine. And that's when it hits. A punch straight to the gut. Because as much as I want to scream at her, to tell her she's wrong, part of me knows she's not entirely lying. Not really. I wasn't here enough. Not in the ways that counted most, anyway. Sure, I came back when things got bad, when cancer reared its ugly head and Dad couldn't take care of himself anymore. But before that, before the diagnosis, I was gone. Off chasing dreams, building a life far away from Maple Ridge, telling myself I needed space, independence, freedom. And now, standing here listening to Margaret twist the knife, I can't help wondering, did Dad feel abandoned? Did he think I didn't care? She keeps talking, oblivious, or maybe indifferent, to the storm raging inside me. William knew you had your own life, she continues, smoothing her blouse like she's delivering a eulogy instead of tearing me apart. He didn't want to burden you. Burden me? Is that what she thinks I felt? Is that what Dad thought? My hands clench into fists at my sides, nails digging into my palms hard enough to leave marks. No, it wasn't a burden. It was duty, love, sacrifice. But none of those words seem big enough to explain why I dropped everything to be here, why I emptied my bank account to keep him comfortable, why I sat by his bedside holding his hand when he was too weak to hold mine back. None of it matters to Margaret, though. To her, I'm just the absent daughter, the one who left and only came back when it was convenient. I try to argue, to defend myself, but the words catch in my throat, tangled up with guilt and shame and anger so sharp it takes my breath away. That's not fair, I manage to choke out, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to steady it. Margaret raises an eyebrow, unimpressed. Life isn't fair, she says coolly, like she's reciting a platitude instead of ripping apart my soul. Then she turns on her heel and walks out, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence of the house that smells like sawdust and regret. After she's gone, I collapse onto the couch, staring at the ceiling as tears blur my vision. What am I supposed to do now? How do I fight someone who's already decided I'm the villain in this story? Margaret has always been good at playing the victim, turning situations to suit her narrative. But this time it feels personal. Like she's not just taking Dad's money. She's taking his memory, twisting it into something ugly that leaves no room for me. Every photo on the walls, every tool in the garage, every creak of the floorboards, they all whisper the same question. Was I enough? And then there's the bigger problem. What if she's right? What if Dad really did see me as someone who walked away, someone he couldn't rely on? That thought terrifies me more than anything else. Not because it might be true, but because I don't know how to prove it's not. Fighting Margaret means digging into the past, confronting memories I've spent years trying to bury. It means facing the fact that maybe, just maybe, I failed Dad in ways I never realized. But walking away isn't an option either. If I let her win, if I let her rewrite history like this, then what does that say about me? About us? Would Dad have wanted me to give up, to accept being erased? Or would he have expected me to fight back, to demand answers, to stand up for myself even when it hurts? I don't know. I honestly don't. But one thing is clear. I can't stay stuck in this limbo, torn between guilt and rage, fear and determination. Something has to break, and soon. So I sit there, surrounded by the ghosts of this house, wondering what comes next. Do I go after Margaret? Force her to face the truth? Or do I start looking for answers elsewhere, searching for proof that I mattered to Dad more than she claims? Whatever I choose, it's going to hurt. It's going to cost me. But staying silent, letting her win without a fight? That's not who I am. Not anymore. What would you do? Would you confront her head-on, risking everything for a shot at justice? Or would you step back, gather evidence quietly, hoping to uncover something that changes the game entirely? Either way, the stakes are rising, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. This is where the cracks start to show, and nothing will ever be the same again. For a while, it feels like maybe, just maybe, I've caught a break. Mark shows up the next morning with coffee and donuts, his truck rumbling to a stop in front of Dad's house, like he's delivering hope instead of breakfast. He doesn't say much at first, just hands me a steaming cup and sits down on the porch swing beside me. The air is cooler today, crisp with the promise of fall, but the tension inside me hasn't budged. Still, there's something comforting about having him here. Someone who knows me without needing explanations. Someone who doesn't look at me like I'm broken or wrong. I found some stuff, he says finally, pulling a folder out of his bag. His voice is casual, like he's telling me about a funny meme instead of dropping what could be a bombshell. Inside the folder are old receipts, bank statements, even handwritten notes from Dad detailing payments I made for his medical bills. My stomach flips as I flip through them, each piece of paper feeling heavier than the last. Thought this might help, Mark adds, shrugging like it's no big deal. But his eyes tell me he knows exactly how huge this is. Relief washes over me so fast it almost knocks me over. Proof. Actual proof that I wasn't just imagining things, that I did everything I could for Dad when he needed me most. For the first time since walking out of that lawyer's office, I feel like I can breathe again. Maybe Margaret isn't untouchable after all. Maybe I have a shot at setting the record straight, at showing her, and everyone else, that I wasn't the absent daughter she's trying to paint me as. That night, sitting at the kitchen table with Mark across from me, I let myself imagine a different outcome. What if we take these documents to a lawyer? What if we prove that Dad intended for me to inherit anything? It wouldn't fix everything, but it would mean I didn't fight for nothing. It would mean I mattered, at least a little. The thought makes my chest ache, not with sadness this time, but with something closer to hope. For the first time in weeks, I laugh at one of Mark's dumb jokes and it feels real. Like maybe, just maybe, I won't lose myself completely in this mess. But then, something gnaws at the edges of my mind. A tiny whisper I can't quite silence. As much as I want to believe these papers will change everything, part of me wonders, why did Dad never talk about any of this? If he trusted me enough to leave records like this, why didn't he include me in his will? Why go through all the trouble of documenting my sacrifices only to exclude me anyway? It doesn't add up, and the more I think about it, the more uneasy I feel. Mark notices, of course. He always does. "You okay?" he asks, tilting his head like he's trying to read my thoughts. I nod, forcing a smile, but the question lingers in the back of my throat, too sharp to ignore. What if these documents aren't enough? What if they open doors I'm not ready to walk through? What if proving I was there for Dad means facing truths I've spent years avoiding? The house creaks around us as night settles in, shadows stretching long across the walls. Outside, crickets chirp endlessly, their rhythms soothing and maddening all at once. I glance at the folder again, its contents spilling onto the table like secrets begging to be uncovered. Something about it feels off. Too perfect, almost. Like pieces of a puzzle falling into place too easily. Is it possible Margaret already knows about this? Or worse, is she expecting me to find it? I push the thought away, focusing instead on the warmth of Mark's presence, the weight of the evidence in front of me. For now, I'll hold on to this sliver of hope, this fragile sense that I might actually stand a chance against her. But deep down, I can't shake the feeling that I'm missing something, that maybe this isn't the win it seems to be. So tell me, what do you think? Should I trust this moment of relief, or am I walking into another trap? Because whatever happens next, I have a feeling it's going to change everything. Again, just when I think I've got a foothold, life decides to yank the rug out from under me. And this time, it's not Margaret throwing punches, it's Dad. Or at least, the version of him I thought I knew. It starts innocently enough. Mark and I are digging deeper into Dad's things, trying to piece together more evidence to strengthen our case against Margaret. We're in the garage again, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and old metal, when I notice something strange tucked behind a stack of plywood. A small wooden box, handcrafted, with faint scratches along its edges like it's been handled often, but carefully hidden. My heart skips a beat as I pull it free, running my fingers over the smooth surface. It's locked, no key in sight, but there's something about it that feels personal, like it doesn't belong with the rest of the clutter. Think he kept anything important in here? Mark asks, leaning over my shoulder. His voice is light, curious, but I can hear the unspoken question beneath it. What if you don't want to know what's inside? Ignoring the warning bells ringing. In my head, I grab a screwdriver from the workbench and pry the lid open. Inside, I find a jumble of papers, letters, photographs, and a worn leather journal tied shut with a fraying string. My hands tremble as I untie the knot, flipping through pages filled with Dad's messy handwriting. At first, it seems like just notes on projects he was working on, sketches of furniture designs, lists of materials. But then I come across entries that make my blood run cold. I borrowed too much, one reads. Claire won't understand. She'll hate me. Another says, Margaret says she'll take care of it, but I don't trust her either. The words blur together as tears fill my eyes. Borrowed? What does he mean, borrowed? From who? And why didn't he tell me? Panic rises in my chest as I keep reading, each sentence peeling back another layer of lies I didn't even realize were there. He wasn't just sick. He was drowning, in debt, in shame, in secrets he couldn't bring himself to share. Secrets that now feel like they're swallowing me whole. Mark tries to calm me down, reminding me we need to focus on the facts, but I can't stop shaking. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about trust. About everything I thought I understood. About Dad falling apart right in front of me. How could he hide this? Why would he let me think I was saving him when he was already beyond saving? Then comes the worst part. Buried near the bottom of the box is an envelope addressed to Margaret. My name isn't on it, but curiosity gets the better of me, and I tear it open anyway. Inside is a letter, dated months before Dad passed, where he apologizes to her for lying about loans he couldn't repay. Loans she apparently covered, but only after making him promise to leave everything to her in his will. Everything clicks into place like pieces of a puzzle I didn't ask to solve. Margaret didn't just inherit Dad's estate. She orchestrated it. She played him, manipulated him, and then erased me to cover her tracks. The betrayal cuts deeper than anything else so far. Not just because of what Margaret did, but because of what it reveals about Dad. He chose silence over honesty, pride over truth, and now I'm left picking up the pieces of a legacy I never wanted. I sit on the cold concrete floor, clutching the journal to my chest, wondering how much of this mess is his fault and how much is mine. Did I fail him by leaving? By not seeing how desperate he really was? Or did he fail me by refusing to let me in? This changes everything. And nothing. I have proof Margaret's hands aren't clean, but exposing her means airing Dad's failures for everyone to see. Is that what he'd want? Would he forgive me for dragging his name through the mud to clear mine? I don't know the answers. But one thing is certain. This fight just got a lot bigger. And trust me, you won't believe what happens next. Because if I've learned anything, it's that the hardest battles are the ones we didn't choose to fight. The deeper I dig, the harder it becomes to breathe. Every new discovery feels like another weight pressing down on me, forcing me to choose between truths that hurt and lies that protect. And now, standing in the middle of Dad's garage with Mark watching silently from the doorway, I'm faced with a decision so gut-wrenching it makes my knees buckle. It's not just about exposing Margaret. It's about deciding who gets to keep their dignity intact, Dad or me. Here's the thing. If I use what I found in that wooden box, the letters, the journal, the damning evidence of Margaret's manipulation, I'll destroy her. There's no question about it. She orchestrated this whole mess, twisting Dad's vulnerabilities into leverage, making him promise to leave everything to her while hiding the fact she'd already bailed him out financially. But here's the catch. Going public with any of this means dragging Dad's name through the mud too. His debts, his shame, his inability to face the truth, they'll all be laid bare for everyone to see. The man who raised me, flawed and broken as he was, will become nothing more than a cautionary tale whispered over coffee cups at family gatherings. Is that justice? Or is it vengeance? I sit on the cold concrete floor, staring at the envelope addressed to Margaret, its contents burning in my hands like they're alive. My mind races, spinning scenarios faster than I can process them. If I confront Margaret privately, maybe we can strike some kind of deal. Money for silence, closure without collateral damage. But would she even agree? Would she care enough to negotiate? Or would she double down, twist things further until I'm left looking like the villain again? And even if she did agree, could I live with myself knowing I let her win, knowing she got away with manipulating Dad when he was at his weakest? On the other hand, taking this fight public feels like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. Yes, it would expose Margaret for the manipulative opportunist she is, but it would also paint Dad as someone who couldn't handle his own problems, someone who relied on others instead of standing tall. That's not the man I remember. The man who taught me how to hammer nails straight and fix squeaky doors, who worked long hours in the sun to provide for us even when times were tough. That version of him deserves better than to be reduced to a list of failures splashed across headlines. But then there's me. Who am I in all of this? Am I fighting for justice, for recognition, for a chance to rewrite history so people finally see me as more than the daughter who walked away? Or am I clinging to scraps of pride because I'm scared of letting go, scared of admitting that maybe I wasn't enough for Dad either? What happens if I step back, walk away from this fight entirely? Would it mean I've accepted defeat, or that I've chosen forgiveness over bitterness? Mark kneels beside me, his voice soft but firm. You don't have to decide right now, he says, placing a hand on my shoulder. But whatever you choose, make sure it's for you. Not for him, not for her. His words hit hard, cutting through the chaos in my head like a knife slicing rope. He's right, of course. This isn't just about proving something to Margaret, or honoring Dad's memory. It's about figuring out who I want to be after all of this is said and done. Do I want to be the person who fights dirty, who drags skeletons out of closets just to win? Or do I want to be the person who lets go, who chooses grace, even when it hurts? And yet, letting go feels impossible. Not because I hate Margaret, not entirely, but because I need answers. I need to know why Dad didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. Why he pushed me away instead of reaching out. Why he let Margaret swoop in and take control when I was the one showing up day after day, doing everything I could to hold him together. Maybe those answers won't change anything, but they'll give me something solid to stand on, something real to build from once this storm passes. So here's the question I can't stop asking myself. And maybe you should ask yourself too. What would you do? Would you risk destroying your father's legacy to prove you mattered to him, to show the world you weren't invisible? Or would you swallow your pride, bury the evidence, and hope time heals the wounds you're too scared to face? Either way, someone loses. Someone pays the price for choices made long before I stumbled into this nightmare. As much as I want to believe there's a clean solution, a way to fix everything without hurting anyone, I know better. Life doesn't work like that. Choices bleed into consequences, and sometimes the only thing you can control is how you carry the weight of them afterward. So I sit here, surrounded by shadows and secrets, wondering which path will leave me less broken. Because whichever one I take, it's going to cost me something I can't get back. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The tension reaches a breaking point, and it's not just coming from me. It's everywhere, pressing in like the walls of this house are closing in. I can feel it in the air, thick and suffocating, every breath heavier than the last. It's late at night, or maybe early morning. I've lost track of time sitting here on the porch with that damn envelope clutched in my hands, staring out at the dark yard where fireflies blink like tiny stars against the void. Mark went home hours ago, saying something about needing rest, but I couldn't move if I tried. My mind is racing too fast, spinning scenarios so loud they drown out the crickets chirping their endless song. Then the phone rings. The shrill sound cuts through the silence like a knife, making me jump. For a second, I think about ignoring it, letting it ring until whoever's calling gives up. But something stops me. Maybe it's instinct, maybe it's desperation, but I reach for the receiver anyway, my heart pounding as I press it to my ear. Hello? My voice shakes, barely above a whisper. Claire. It's Margaret. Of course it is. Her tone is sharp, clipped, like she rehearsed this conversation before dialing. I know you've been digging around, she says without preamble. My stomach drops. She knows. Somehow, she knows. Whatever you're planning, stop. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Her words hit me like ice water, freezing me in place. How does she know? Did she find out about the box? About the journal? Or is she bluffing, trying to scare me into backing down? Either way, her confidence rattles me more than I want to admit. What are you talking about? I managed to choke out, gripping the edge of the chair so hard my knuckles turn white. You think you're the only one who cared about William? Her voice softens slightly, almost mocking, like she's enjoying this. You have no idea what he was going through, or what I did to help him. If you expose any of this, you'll ruin everything. His memory, his reputation, everything he worked for. Every syllable feels like a punch to the gut. She's right. I don't fully understand what Dad was dealing with, and hearing her say it makes guilt twist inside me like a blade. But there's something else too. Anger. Pure, raw anger. Who is she to lecture me about protecting Dad when she manipulated him into leaving everything to her? Who is she to act like she cared more than I did? I'm not letting you get away with this, I snap, surprising even myself with how steady my voice sounds. You used him, Margaret. You took advantage of him when he was vulnerable, and now you expect me to sit back and let you rewrite history? There's a pause on the other end of the line, long enough for me to wonder if she hung up. Then she laughs, a cold, bitter sound that sends chills down my spine. Oh, Claire, she says finally, her tone dripping with condescension. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about me. It's about you. Always has been. Why do you think William left you out of the will? He didn't trust you, not with this, not after everything. Her words hit harder than anything else so far, cutting deeper than any accusation or insult, because part of me wonders if she's telling the truth. Did Dad leave me out because he didn't trust me? Because he thought I'd make things worse instead of better? Or is Margaret lying again, twisting reality to suit her agenda? I can't tell anymore. All I know is that her voice keeps echoing in my head, taunting me, forcing me to face questions I've been running from since this whole nightmare began. After we hang up, I sit there for what feels like hours, replaying the conversation over and over in my mind. Each word feels like a trap, luring me closer to an edge I'm not ready to fall off of. Is she bluffing? Does she have proof I haven't uncovered yet? Or is she just trying to rattle me, to throw me off balance before I do something irreversible? But then another thought hits me, one that terrifies me more than anything else. What if she's not lying? What if Dad really didn't trust me? The idea makes my chest ache, sharp and unbearable. If that's true, then none of this matters. Exposing Margaret won't fix anything. It won't bring Dad back. It won't erase the fact that he chose her over me. Fighting feels pointless now, like screaming into a void that doesn't care. And yet, letting go feels impossible. Not because I hate Margaret, not entirely, but because I need answers. I need to know why Dad pushed me away, why he let her take control when I was the one showing up day after day, doing everything I could to hold him together. Maybe those answers won't change anything, but they'll give me something solid to stand on, something real to build from once this storm passes. As dawn breaks over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I realize I'm out of options. Whatever happens next, it's going to hurt. It's going to cost me. But staying silent, letting her win without a fight, that's not who I am. Not anymore. So here's the question I can't stop asking myself. And maybe you should ask yourself too. When faced with impossible choices, how far would you go to protect the people you love? And when the truth threatens to destroy everything, is it worth fighting for anyway? Because whatever choice I make, someone loses. Someone pays the price for decisions made long before I stumbled into this nightmare. Trust me, you won't believe what happens next. The hours leading up to the confrontation feel like they're stretching and snapping, elastic bands pulled too tight. I don't sleep, not really. Every time I close my eyes, Dad's face flashes in front of me, his expression unreadable, distant, like he's judging me even now. And then there's Margaret, her voice echoing in my head. You really don't get it, do you? Those words haunt me, twisting themselves into knots inside my chest until breathing feels impossible. What if she's right? What if none of this is about fairness or justice? It's about me proving something to myself that no amount of evidence can answer. By sunrise, I'm pacing the floorboards of Dad's house, each creak beneath my feet sounding louder than thunder. The envelope is still clutched in my hand, its edges worn from being held so tightly. Inside are the letters, the journal entries, the proof that could tear everything apart. Or maybe just me. I've gone over it 100 times, memorized every word, but it doesn't matter how many times I read them. The decision ahead isn't any clearer. Do I expose Margaret and risk shattering whatever remains of Dad's legacy? Or do I let her win, walk away, and try to live with the fact that I stayed silent when I had the chance to fight back? Mark shows up early, carrying coffee and a look on his face that tells me he knows exactly how much I'm struggling. He sets the cups down on the kitchen table without saying anything at first, just watches me pace like a caged animal. Finally, he speaks, his voice calm but firm. You need to decide what this is really about, Claire, he says. Is it about your dad? About Margaret? Or is it about you? I stop mid-step, turning to glare at him. What does that even mean? I snap, though part of me already knows the answer. It's not just about exposing Margaret or clearing my name. It's about proving to myself that I mattered to Dad. That I wasn't invisible. That all those sacrifices weren't for nothing. But admitting that out loud makes it sound selfish, petty even. Like I'm using Dad's memory as some kind of bargaining chip. Mark shrugs, unfazed by my tone. It means you have to figure out why you're doing this before you take another step. Because once you cross that line, there's no going back. He's right, of course. Once I confront Margaret, once I lay everything bare, things will change. Forever. There won't be room for second-guessing or half measures. This isn't just about winning. It's about choosing which version of myself I want to see staring back at me when it's over. Will I recognize her? Respect her? Or will I hate her? And then there's the timing. Margaret called last night, didn't she? She knows I've been digging, knows I'm onto her, which means she's preparing for this too, probably lining up excuses or spinning new lies to cover her tracks. If I wait too long, she'll strike first. Maybe smear my name, make me look unstable or vindictive. Maybe destroy the evidence before I can use it. Either way, sitting here paralyzed isn't an option anymore. The clock is ticking, and every second I waste gives her more power. But here's the thing that keeps me frozen. What if she's already one step ahead? What if she's not afraid of me because she knows something I don't? My mind races through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Did she find the box? Is she planning to deny everything? Claim I forged the documents? Or worse, did she know about them all along and leave them there deliberately, like breadcrumbs meant to trap me? The uncertainty is killing me, gnawing at my resolve, until I'm not sure I can trust myself anymore. I glance at the envelope again, running my fingers over its surface like it holds the answers to questions I haven't even asked yet. Does it? Or is it just another piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit? Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the windows and sending leaves skittering across the yard. The sky is gray now, heavy with rain clouds that match the storm brewing inside me. Everything feels charged, electric, like the world itself is holding its breath waiting for what happens next. And I realize something. I can't keep running from this. Whatever choice I make, whoever I become after today, it starts now. So here's the question I can't shake. And maybe you should ask yourself too. When faced with a truth so painful it threatens to break you, do you run toward it or away? Do you fight for clarity, no matter the cost, or do you protect yourself from the fallout? Because either way, someone loses, someone bleeds. And trust me, you won't believe who steps forward next. If you've made it this far, don't stop. Now, hit subscribe to stay with me through the final showdown, where secrets unravel, lives change, and nothing will ever be the same. You won't regret sticking around for this one, I promise. The confrontation happens in the one place I never expected, Dad's garage. Margaret shows up uninvited, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete floor like she owns the space. Her arms crossed tightly over her chest as if she's bracing herself for impact. She doesn't knock or announce her arrival. She just walks in like she belongs here, like this is still her territory, even though it stopped being hers years ago. I'm sitting on an old wooden stool, the envelope resting on my lap. Its weight, heavier than anything I've ever held before. My hands tremble slightly, but I force myself to stay still, to look her in the eye when she finally speaks. "You're making a mistake," she says without preamble, her voice calm but laced with venom. "You don't know what you're doing, Claire." Her tone is patronizing, dripping with condescension, and for a moment, I almost believe her. Almost. "I know enough," I shoot back, standing up so fast the stool wobbles behind me. My heart is pounding, each beat reverberating in my ears like a drum roll leading up to something inevitable. This isn't just about exposing her, it's about proving to myself that I'm not invisible, that I mattered to Dad more than she wants me to think. But as much as I want to scream at her, to throw every accusation I've rehearsed in my head, I can't shake the feeling that she's playing me, manipulating the situation exactly how she did with Dad. Margaret takes a step closer, her expression shifting from smug to calculating. "Do you really think William would want this?" she asks, tilting her head like she's genuinely curious. Dragging his name through the mud, airing out secrets he worked so hard to bury. "Is that who you are now?" Her words hit me like a slap, sharp and stinging, because part of me wonders if she's right. If I expose everything, the loans, the lies, the manipulation, what will be left of Dad's memory? Will people remember him as the man who built beautiful furniture and told bad jokes at family dinners? Or will they see him as someone too weak to handle his own problems? And then there's me. Will they see me as the daughter who fought for truth and justice? Or as someone desperate to rewrite history in her favor? But I can't let her win. Not this time. Not after everything. Don't pretend you care about his memory, I snap, clutching the envelope tighter. You manipulated him, Margaret. You used his shame to control him, to make him promise things he shouldn't have. Don't act like you're the victim here. She flinches, just barely, but it's enough to tell me I've struck a nerve. Good. Let her squirm. Let her feel what it's like to have someone dig into your secrets, to question everything you thought was safe. And what about you? She counters quickly, recovering her composure. Where were you when he needed you most? Off chasing. Dreams while I stayed close, made sure he didn't lose everything. You abandoned him, Claire. Don't act like you're some kind of hero. Her words land like punches, each one harder than the last, because deep down, I know she's not entirely wrong. I wasn't here. Not fully. Not until it was too late. But that doesn't mean she gets to erase me, to act like my sacrifices didn't matter. I came back, I say, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to steady it. I paid his bills, held his hand during chemo, sat by his side when he couldn't even talk. I gave everything I had, and you know it. So don't you dare stand there and tell me I abandoned him. For a moment, neither of us speaks. The air feels charged, electric, like the world itself is holding its breath waiting for what happens next. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling, the windows and sending leaves skittering across the yard. Inside, the silence between us is deafening, broken only by the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Finally, Margaret exhales sharply, her shoulders sagging slightly as if she's carrying the weight of everything we're not saying. Fine, she says quietly, her voice softer now, almost weary. What do you want, Claire? What's going to make this right? It's the question I've been dreading, the one I don't have an answer to. Do I want money, recognition, justice? None of those things feel big enough to fix what's broken between us, or within me. All I know is that I can't walk away without answers, without knowing why Dad chose her over me, why he pushed me away instead of letting me in. I want the truth, I say finally, my voice barely above a whisper. All of it. No more lies, no more excuses, just the truth. Margaret stares at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable before nodding slowly. Okay, she says, her voice heavy with resignation. But you might not like what you hear. And then she reaches into her bag and pulls out something that stops me cold. A second envelope, identical to mine except for the handwriting scrawled across the front. My name. In Dad's shaky penmanship. My stomach drops like I've been shoved off a cliff. Whatever's inside, I know it's going to change everything. So here's the question I can't stop asking myself, and maybe you should ask yourself too. When the truth threatens to unravel everything you thought you knew, are you brave enough to face it? Because whatever happens next, it's going to hurt. It's going to cost me. And trust me, you won't believe where this story goes from here. Margaret hands me the envelope, her fingers brushing mine just briefly before she pulls away like, it burns to touch me. I stare at it, my pulse hammering so hard I can feel it in my throat. My name is written in Dad's handwriting, shaky and uneven, like he was struggling to steady his hand. But it's unmistakably his. For a moment, I'm frozen, unable to move or breathe. What could possibly be inside that would make Margaret look this defeated, this guilty? Finally, I force myself to open it, tearing the seal with trembling hands. Inside is a single sheet of paper, folded neatly, almost reverently. When I unfold it, my eyes scan the words quickly, but they don't register at first. It's not until I read them again, and then again, that the meaning sinks in, each sentence hitting me like a punch to the gut. Claire, it begins, and already my chest feels tight, like the air is being squeezed out of me. If you're reading this, it means something went wrong, something I didn't plan for. My stomach twists as I keep going, the words blurring. Together through tears I didn't realize were falling. I never meant to hurt you. Leaving you out of the will wasn't about trust. It was about protection. Margaret convinced me she'd take care of everything, but only if I promised to leave it all to her. She said it would keep you safe, keep you from getting tangled up in debts I couldn't repay. My vision swims as I read on, every line unraveling, everything I thought I knew. You've always been stronger than me, Claire. Smarter, braver. But I was too proud to ask for help, too scared to admit how much I needed you. By the time I realized what I'd done, it was too late. Margaret had control, and I couldn't undo the promises I made, so I wrote this instead, hoping someday you'd find it and understand. And then comes the part that makes my knees buckle, forcing me to sit down hard on the stool behind me. The money isn't real, Claire. None of it. Margaret took over the estate years ago when I couldn't pay her back. Everything you think we have, it's gone. There's nothing left. I wanted you to know that before she tried to use it against you. For a long moment, I can't speak. Can't think. The room spins around me, the weight of his words pressing down like gravity has doubled. All this time, all the anger, the guilt, the fighting, it was for nothing. Margaret didn't inherit wealth. She inherited responsibility. Responsibility for cleaning up Dad's messes while keeping him quiet about hers. And now, standing here, staring at the letter, I realize the truth. Neither of us won. We both lost. Margaret shifts uncomfortably beside me, breaking the silence. He made me promise not to tell you, she says softly, her voice tinged with regret, or maybe relief. Said it would destroy you if you found out how bad things really were. But why? I whisper, clutching the letter to my chest, like it's the last piece of him I'll ever have. Why didn't he just talk to me? She shakes her head, looking older than I've ever seen her. Because he was scared, Claire. Scared of losing you. Scared of admitting he wasn't the man he wanted to be. He thought protecting you meant pushing you away. The realization hits me like a freight train. Dad didn't leave me out because he didn't love me. He left me out because he loved me too much. Because he thought letting me go was the only way to save me. And now, sitting here surrounded by tools and sawdust and memories, I don't know whether to scream or cry or laugh. None of it fixes anything, but somehow it changes everything. So here's the question I can't stop asking myself, and maybe you should ask yourself too. When the person you thought betrayed you was actually trying to protect you all along, how do you forgive them? How do you forgive yourself for not seeing it sooner? Because whatever happens next, it's going to hurt. It's going to heal. And trust me, you won't believe where this story goes from here. If you're loving these jaw-dropping twists and emotional gut punches, hit subscribe now to catch every unforgettable moment. Stories like this don't come around often, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The letter doesn't fix anything. Not really. It doesn't bring Dad back or erase the years I spent wondering why he pushed me away. But it changes something deep inside me, like a crack in a dam letting light seep through for the first time. Sitting there in the garage, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and memories, I finally understand. This wasn't about money or wills or Margaret's manipulation. It was about fear. Dad's fear. My fear. The kind of fear that keeps us from saying what we need to say, doing what we need to do, until it's too late. For so long I've been carrying this invisible weight, a mix of guilt and anger and sadness that felt impossible to put down. Guilt for leaving, anger for being excluded, sadness for losing him before I could truly find him again. But now, holding his letter in my hands, I realize none of those things were mine to carry alone. He was scared, just like I was. Scared of failing, of being vulnerable, of asking for help when he needed it most. And instead of reaching out, he pushed me away because he thought it would protect me. Because he thought love meant distance, not connection. Margaret is still standing there, watching me with an expression I can't quite read. Part guilt, part exhaustion, maybe even a little relief. She looks smaller somehow, less intimidating than she did hours ago when she walked into this garage ready to fight. Now she just looks tired, like she's been carrying her own share of secrets and regrets, burdens she never asked for but couldn't escape either. I didn't want any of this, she says quietly, almost to herself. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Her words catch me off guard, softening something inside me I didn't know had hardened. Maybe she wasn't just the villain I painted her to be. Maybe she was as trapped as Dad was, caught in a web of debts and promises neither of them knew how to untangle. That doesn't excuse what she did, manipulating Dad, lying to me, but it makes her human, flawed, complicated, just like the rest of us. And then it hits me. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing. It's about understanding, about seeing someone for who they are instead of who you thought they were. Dad wasn't perfect. He never claimed to be, but he loved me in the only way he knew how. Messy, imperfect, full of mistakes, but love all the same. And Margaret? She's not the monster I imagined either. She's just another person trying and failing to hold everything together. As I sit there, staring at the letter in my hands, I feel something shift inside me. Something heavy lifts, leaving space for something lighter, brighter. Hope, maybe. Or maybe just clarity. Whatever it is, it feels like breathing again after months underwater. I don't have to hate Margaret to honor Dad. I don't have to win to matter. All I have to do is let go. Thank you, I say finally, looking up at Margaret. My voice shakes, raw and unsteady, but it's honest. For telling me the truth, even if it took this long. She nods, her eyes glistening like she might cry, or already has, and turns to leave without another word. As the door clicks shut behind her, I'm left alone with the echoes of everything unsaid, everything misunderstood. But for the first time, I don't feel angry. I feel free. Because here's the thing I've realized. The hardest battles aren't the ones we fight against other people. They're the ones we fight within ourselves. Learning to forgive isn't easy, especially when the wounds run so deep. But it's worth it. Because forgiveness doesn't just heal the past. It opens the door to the future, to new beginnings, to becoming someone stronger, wiser, braver than before. So here's the question I can't stop asking myself, and maybe you should ask yourself too. When life gives you reasons to hold on to pain, how do you choose to let go instead? How do you find strength in vulnerability, grace in imperfection, hope in loss? Because that's where transformation happens. That's where we grow. And trust me, the journey is worth every step. If you followed me this far, don't stop now. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on forgiveness and growth. I'd love to hear how this story resonates with you. Stories like this remind us we're not alone in our struggles, and your voice matters. Keep engaging, keep reflecting, and let's keep growing together. The letter doesn't fix everything. It can't. But it changes everything. After Margaret leaves, the house feels quieter than it has in weeks, like the storm that's been raging inside me has finally settled into something calm and still. I sit there on the stool in Dad's garage, clutching his words in my hands, letting them sink in slowly, piece by piece. The anger I've carried for so long, the resentment, the guilt, it doesn't disappear completely, but it shifts. It softens, like frost melting under sunlight. For the first time since this nightmare began, I feel lighter, like I'm not drowning anymore. Margaret didn't inherit wealth. She inherited responsibility. Responsibility for cleaning up Dad's messes while keeping him quiet about hers. And yet, despite everything, the manipulation, the lies, the betrayal, I don't hate her. Not really. How can I? She was just as trapped as he was, caught in a cycle of debts and promises neither of them knew how to break. That doesn't excuse what she did, using Dad's shame to control him, erasing me from his will. But it makes her human, flawed, complicated, just like me. And then there's Dad. Oh, Dad. He wasn't perfect. He never pretended to be, but he loved me the only way he knew how. Imperfectly, messily, full of mistakes. Reading his letter over and over again, I see it now. The fear behind his silence. The pride that kept him from asking for help. The love that made him push me away because he thought it would protect me. He thought keeping me at arm's length meant saving me from the weight of his failures. But instead, it left me carrying questions I didn't know how to answer. Questions about why he didn't trust me, why he chose Margaret over me, why he let me walk away without ever looking back. But now I understand. It wasn't about trust. It was about protection, about trying and failing to shield me from the pain he couldn't face himself. Part of me wishes I could tell him that it didn't work, that walking away hurt more than staying ever could have. But another part of me is grateful for this letter, for these words that finally give me the closure I didn't even realize I needed. They don't erase the past, but they rewrite it. They make sense of the chaos, of the silences, of the choices that felt cruel until now. I spend the rest of the day going through Dad's things, sorting through tools and papers and half-finished projects like I'm piecing together fragments of who he was. Each item tells a story, a memory, a moment, a piece of him I almost forgot. There's an old hammer with worn leather grips, its handle smooth from years of use. A sketchbook filled with designs for furniture he never built. A jar of rusty nails tucked into a corner of the workbench, forgotten but somehow still useful. These aren't just objects. They're reminders of his hands, his voice, his laugh, of the man who taught me how to fix things, even when they seemed broken beyond repair. By the time night falls, I've cleared out most of the garage, leaving only the essentials behind. Mark shows up just as I'm finishing, bringing takeout and a 6-pack of beer like he always does when he senses I need company. We sit on the porch steps, eating cold burgers and talking about nothing important, letting the quiet fill the spaces between us. For once, I don't feel the need to explain myself or justify my feelings. He gets it, or at least he tries to. And that's enough. So, what happens now? He asks eventually, breaking the comfortable silence. His tone is casual, but I hear the question beneath it. What happens to you? I shrug, staring out at the dark yard where fireflies blink lazily against the horizon. I don't know, I say honestly. Maybe I'll sell the house. Maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'll move somewhere new altogether. The truth is, I haven't decided yet. All I know is that I'm ready to start figuring it out. Ready to stop running from the past and start building toward the future. Because here's the thing I've realized. Life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about learning how to carry it. How to turn it into something meaningful, something beautiful. Dad tried to protect me from the weight of his struggles, but maybe what he should have done was teach me how to share it, how to lean on each other instead of pushing each other away. Maybe that's the lesson I'll take with me moving forward. That strength isn't about doing it alone. It's about knowing when to ask for help. So here's the resolution. Plain and simple. I forgive him. I forgive Margaret. I forgive myself. Not because everything is okay, it's not. But because forgiveness isn't about fixing things. It's about letting go. Letting go of the anger, the guilt, the grief. Letting go of the version of Dad I thought I lost, and embracing the one I found instead. Messy, flawed, human. Perfect in his imperfection. And now? Now I get to decide what comes next. The days that follow feel like stepping into a new world, one where the air smells fresher and the colors seem brighter. It's not that everything is suddenly perfect. Life doesn't work like that. But there's a shift, a subtle reordering of things that makes it easier to breathe. Margaret and I don't talk much after that day in the garage, but when we do, it's different. Less guarded, less biting. There's an unspoken understanding between us now, a fragile truce built on shared pain and mutual regret. She stops, by once or twice to help sort through Dad's things, her heels replaced by sneakers, her stiff posture softened by something that looks almost like vulnerability. "Thank you," she says quietly one afternoon, passing me a box of old photos. Her voice catches slightly, like she wasn't planning to say it out loud. I nod, meeting her eyes for the first time without anger clouding my vision. "You're welcome," I reply, meaning it. Mark notices the change in me too. Or maybe he just notices that I'm smiling more, laughing at his dumb jokes instead of rolling my eyes. He keeps showing up, bringing coffee and snacks like he's determined to make sure I don't disappear again. One evening, as we sit on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in streaks of orange and pink, he leans back on his elbows and says, "You seem lighter." His tone is casual, but his gaze is sharp, searching. I shrug, tracing patterns on the wooden planks beneath my feet. "I think I am," I admit, surprising myself with how true it feels. For so long I carried this invisible weight, a mix of guilt, anger, and grief that felt impossible to put down. But now, after everything, it's gone. Not erased exactly, but transformed into something I can carry without breaking. As for Dad, well, he's still everywhere. In the creak of the floorboards, the smell of sawdust in the garage, the way the sunlight filters through the curtains in the mornings. Only now, instead of seeing him as this distant figure who pushed me away, I see him as he was. Human, flawed, doing the best he could with what he had. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in the kitchen with his journal open in front of me, reading his messy handwriting and imagining the man behind the words. The man who worked long hours to provide for us, who taught me how to hammer nails straight and fix squeaky doors, who loved me in ways I didn't fully understand until now. And yeah, the man who made mistakes, big ones, but who tried to protect me even when it cost him everything. Margaret starts coming around less often as the weeks pass, though I catch glimpses of her sometimes walking through town, her shoulders squared, but her steps slower, heavier. She's changed too, though it's harder to see from the outside. Maybe she's learning to forgive herself, or maybe she's just learning to live with the weight of her choices. Either way, I hope she finds peace. We're not close, not like we used to be when I was a kid. But we're not enemies anymore, either, just two people trying to move forward, carrying pieces of the same man in our hearts. And then there's me, Claire Hayes, 32 years old, stubborn as hell, and carrying more scars than I ever thought possible, but also stronger, kinder, more, willing to let people in instead of pushing them away. Selling the house feels like the right decision. though it hurts more than I expected. Every room holds memories, some good, some bad. But letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space for new beginnings, for whatever comes next. Mark helps me pack up the last of Dad's things, loading boxes into his truck while I stand in the doorway, staring at the empty rooms. "Ready?" he asks finally, tilting his head toward the car. I nod, taking one last look before closing the door behind me. Ready or not, here we go. So here's the lesson I've learned. And maybe you should ask yourself if you've learned it too. Life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about learning how to carry it, how to turn it into something meaningful, something beautiful. Dad tried to shield me from his struggles, but maybe what he should have done was teach me how to share them, how to lean on each other instead of pushing each other away. Maybe that's the lesson I'll take with me moving forward. That strength isn't about doing it alone. It's about knowing when to ask for help. Because forgiveness changes things. Not just for the person being forgiven, but for the one doing the forgiving. It lets you step out of the shadow of your past and into the light of your future. And trust me, the view is worth it. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that life doesn't come with a manual. At least not one, written in plain English. The lessons are messy, hidden beneath layers of pain and regret, waiting for you to stumble across them when you least expect it. And the truth is, they don't always make sense right away. Sometimes you have to sit with them, turn them over in your hands like puzzle pieces that don't quite fit, until suddenly they do. For me, the biggest lesson came down to something simple but profound. We're all just trying to protect each other, even when we're terrible at it. Dad thought pushing me away would save me from his struggles. Margaret thought controlling the narrative would keep him safe, and maybe herself too. I thought fighting for answers would prove I mattered. But none of us got it right. Not really. We were all so busy trying to shield each other from pain that we forgot how to let each other in, how to share the weight instead of carrying it alone. That's the irony of love. It's supposed to connect us, but sometimes it drives us further apart because we're too scared to be vulnerable, too proud to admit we need help. I think about Dad a lot these days. Not the version of him who made mistakes or kept secrets, but the man who taught me how to hammer nails straight and fix squeaky doors. The man who worked long hours under the sun to provide for us even when times were tough. He wasn't perfect. He never claimed to be. But he loved me in the only way he knew how. Messy, imperfect, full of flaws. Just like me. Just like everyone else. And maybe that's the point. None of us are perfect, but we're all doing the best we can with what we've got. Forgiveness isn't about excusing those flaws. It's about seeing them clearly and choosing to move forward anyway. Margaret and I aren't close, not yet, but there's a new kind of respect between us now, born out of shared grief and mutual understanding. She's still figuring things out, same as me. And while I don't know if we'll ever fully repair what broke between us, I'm okay with that. Some wounds take longer to heal than others, and some scars never fade completely. But they remind us where we've been, shaping who we become along the way. And then there's me, the person I used to be versus the person I am now. Stubborn Claire, always pushing for more, refusing to settle, but also softer Claire, learning how to let go, how to forgive, how to see people for who they are instead of who I want them to be. Selling the house felt like closing a chapter, but it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. Something I'm still figuring out, step by shaky step. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means carrying the past differently, letting it guide you instead of holding you back. This story isn't just mine. It belongs to anyone who's ever felt unseen, unheard, unloved. Anyone who's carried guilt or anger or grief and wondered if they'd ever put it down. Because here's the truth. You will. Not all at once. Not perfectly, but eventually. And when you do, you'll realize the weight wasn't yours to carry alone. None of us are meant to go through life solo, hoarding our pain like it's some kind of treasure. Strength isn't about doing it alone. It's about knowing when to lean on someone else. When to say, I can't do this by myself. So here's the question I can't stop asking myself, and maybe you should ask yourself too. Who in your life needs forgiveness? Who deserves a second chance? Not because they earned it, but because you deserve peace. And how will you choose to let go of the weight you've been carrying for too long? If this story resonates with you, if it makes you think about the people you've pushed away or the burdens you've held on to, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts or experiences. Let's start a conversation about forgiveness, growth, and the messy beauty of being human. Trust me, your voice matters.